All right, welcome back. Today we're diving into a story that is just a perfect storm of hype, ambition, and, well, failure. We're talking about the Humane AI Pin. How does a company with so much promise, so much buzz, get it so wrong so incredibly fast? Let's break down the lessons packed into this wild case study.
And this quote from Young's newsletter, man, it just hits the nail on the head, right? Humane had absolutely everything going for it. This amazing story, incredible talent straight from Apple, and a gigantic pile of cash. But as we're about to see, sometimes that's just not enough.
And look, when we say a gigantic pile of cash, we are not kidding. The company raised $230 million. To put that in perspective, that's the kind of money that builds unicorns. With that kind of backing, the world wasn't just expecting a new product. They were expecting a revolution.
So you have to ask the big question. With all that money, with talent from the team that literally built the iPhone, and this world-changing vision, how on earth did it all go so wrong, so unbelievably fast? And then there's this. This is what it all boiled down to in the end. The company's key assets were sold off for just $116 million. That's less than half of what they brought in. So the real story here is the journey from that massive $230 million promise to this fire sale ending. Let's trace the steps.
Okay, so let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning, to the incredible promise. Because this thing was positioned not just as a new gadget, but as the future itself.
The story they were selling, it was perfect. I mean, literally perfect. So picture this. You've got these senior folks, fresh out of Apple, the minds behind the iPhone, and they're setting out to build its successor, the thing that comes after the smartphone. Their whole vision was this screenless wearable meant to get us out of our phones and back into the real world, to keep us present. You throw in backers like Sam Altman to a story like that, and the hype just becomes unstoppable. But a great story is one thing. Reality, that's a whole different beast. So let's jump to the timeline and see exactly what happened when this brilliant story crashed into the real world. And when you look at this timeline, what's just staggering isn't just that it failed, but how fast it all imploded. After years of development, the product launches in 2024 and is just immediately torn apart by reviewers. By October of that same year, they're already slashing the price and recalling hardware. And the end came just as quickly. By February of the next year, it was over. Sales were stopped, and the company announced they were pulling the plug on the cloud services, which, by the way, basically turned every single pin out there into a very expensive paperweight. Ouch.
So the big question is, why? Why did it collapse so spectacularly? We're going to break it down into 5 key root causes, all based on the analysis from our source material.
And honestly, this quote right here says it all. A great story gets you meetings, it gets you funding, it gets you attention. But the product actually has to work. Because at the end of the day, the market doesn't care about your TED Talk. It cares if the thing delivers. And here's where you can really see that gap between the story and the reality. It's just night and day. On one side, the promise. This thing was going to replace your smartphone, all shown off in these flawless, super charismatic demos. But the reality for actual users, a slow, unreliable, and frankly fleeky AI that just couldn't handle everyday tasks. They promised to make you more present, but instead it just added all this new frustration. And that premium hardware, well, all that trust went out the window after a major safety recall. In every single category, the reality just fell catastrophically short of the promise. Okay, so let's break this down. It really comes down to 5 huge missteps. First, and this is the big one, they never actually checked if people wanted this thing. They didn't validate product market fit. Then, the marketing just got way, way ahead of the actual engineering. The hype created expectations they just couldn't meet. Add to that some serious architectural flaws like being totally dependent on the cloud, so if your internet was spotty, the device was useless. On top of that, the pricing was just way off for the value it gave. And the final nail in the coffin, that big operational blunder with the safety recall, you can see how each one of these just piled on top of the last, creating a total disaster.
But look, this isn't just about pointing fingers at one company. This is a goldmine of lessons. It's a masterclass in what not to do. So let's pivot and actually look at the actionable advice here. The fail faster rulebook for anyone out there trying to build something new.
So what's the playbook? What can we learn from this mess? Well, first, ship small but test big. Get your product in the hands of real people in the real world, not just in polished demos. Second,
you've got to reduce your blast radius. Design your tech so that if a server goes down, your whole product doesn't become a brick. Third, align your price to the value you actually deliver, not the value you hope to deliver one day. And this is a huge one. Listen to dissent. You have to create ways for your own team to tell you the hard truths. And if you do all that, then you can market responsibly. Use hype carefully once you know your product can back it up.
So after all that, if you're going to walk away with just one single idea from this whole saga, what should it be? What's the most important principle to remember?
It all comes down to this idea, the fail faster principle. Now, this isn't about being sloppy or building bad products. It's about building in small, quick steps, getting immediate feedback from the real world, learning from all those little failures, and then iterating. It's the total opposite of what Humane did, which was to make one massive all-or-nothing bet.
So yeah, that's the key. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Build fast, sure, but you have to validate even faster. The speed at which you learn from real users and real data is everything. Humane placed one giant bet, and when it failed, they had no chips left on the table. There was nowhere else to go.
And that really leaves us with one final and kind of tough question to ask ourselves, whether you're a founder or just part of a team. Is the story you're telling to your investors, your customers, and maybe most importantly to yourself, is that story writing checks that your product simply can't cash? It's something to think about.